Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our public affairs program here at Catamount Radio. And once a week on Sundays, we speak with community leaders from the business, professional, nonprofit, and political arenas. Our show is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846, even before the Civil War, folks. And we're already looking forward to the 180th Vermont State Fair coming up in August of this year. August seems like a long way away, but it really isn't. And I do appreciate the support of the Rutland County Agricultural Society. They have been with us since this show began, and we are now somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 shows over the last few years. And I really appreciate that. And people are saying, hey, I heard you the other day on the radio, which is great. We're very happy today to be able to speak with the new mayor of the city of Rutland, Tom Donahue. We had him on a couple of weeks ago when the campaign was still going on. And at that time, he outlined some of the things he would be interested in accomplishing over the next 12 months. And so I wanted to have him back as quickly as we could today to congratulate him, first of all, on the campaign and the win. And then we'll outline some of the, things that he thinks he wants to get done in the next 12 months. So, Tom, welcome back and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm so excited to not only be back on your program, but come back on as the mayor-elect. The people have spoken, and I appreciate all their incredible support for my candidacy because we have 1 year now to get some things done for Rutland. I talked about on the campaign trail getting some wins for Rutland. I'm in the process of doing that right now. It's about time we get Rutland winning again and that we have that reputation around the state. Right now, Brian, all eyes are on us. So this is a moment, and we don't want to, we need to take full advantage of this moment and let Rutland shine again. I can't wait. I'm excited. It'll be the 15th of March before I can literally be in charge. But in the meantime, a lot of good things have already been transpiring in the last week, and so it's exciting for me. I want to say, I've got a little bit of a radio voice right now because I was able to stay healthy throughout the whole campaign, which was a goal, believe it or not, because that could take you out of the game for a little while, and you didn't want to miss a day campaigning. So I've got what I call campaign voice, which is if you don't have campaign voice after a month of campaigning, then you didn't work hard enough. Yeah. And I did say, if you want it, you got to get out there and earn it, and that's what we did for about 32 straight days, along with my wife Gail, who was right there with me the whole time to work, roll up our sleeves together, and we had nicknamed it. We were going to call it Fun February, and we were going to actually get out there and try to have fun in the campaign, do it together as a couple because it's a lot more fun that way and a lot easier. Yeah. When you're being supported the way she did, and so we did. We actually had a lot of fun. It was hard work being everywhere, but we wanted to be everywhere. We wanted to make sure that we were connecting with everybody we could because it's really powerful to get the input from the people. And you think you know what you're talking about, but you really don't if you're not making those connections.
Yeah. So I know you've had past campaigns for the Board of Aldermen. I've been through 6 now for the Senate, and I know each cycle is a little bit different. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what this cycle was like for you. And, I know that you got into it very quickly. The former mayor, Mike Dunchus, when he announced, I think it was a reporter that actually let you know that he had announced. Yeah, and then I think it was the next day when you jumped in. So
so I was in our Bennington office and doing my Bennington work, and the phone rang, and it was Gordon Dristillo from the Rutland Herald. And I had not been on my email like I might normally check if I was in Rutland that day. And so I actually got caught by surprise. And for the maybe very one of few times, I was actually speechless for a moment. Yes. And Gordon will tell you that. It's like, okay, normally Tom comes right out with an answer. And it was silence on the other end because it was such a surprise to all of us. And we were all notified at the same time. I just hadn't picked up my phone and looked at my email being in Bennington. However, my wheels started turning immediately. Why? Because it's a moment in time for me. I've looked at this position for many, many times over my career, and maybe not felt that I was the best person for the job at that time. I would be a good person for the job, but who was the best person for the job? And I passed on it a lot of times over my career. This time, it was just one of those things that just hit me over the head. I said, "This is you. This moment in time is the city needs you." So I just kind of came to that conclusion myself, saying, "You got to do this, and now's your time." Based on my past experience and based on where we are as a community right now and the opportunities that lie ahead of us. And so once I had made that decision myself, then I started, obviously checking with my spouse, number one, long conversation to make sure that, obviously you have to have that home support as critical. And then, of course, I called my board of directors because I'm fully employed now as the CEO of Brock Community Action and love my job. And it'll be very difficult to leave. I've been CEO there for 10 years running that administration, that organization, and it's run well. And so, I needed to have that conversation with the board of directors. They were in full support. They're amazing people. They care about Rutland in a way that says we'd sacrifice our CEO if you get to be the CEO for the city, because they know that good things are going to happen, and they want that for our community, whether it's for the organization or for the city. They want that for our community. So I give them a ton of credit for saying, go, do your thing. And thirdly, then I assembled the team. I got a hold of Senator Peg Flory and Cal Joslin II, and said, "We're getting the band back together. Are you in?" And they both said, "Absolutely, absolutely." And once I had made those three connections, and there was one last piece. So that was a Friday night, the 30th of January. Right about then, about dinner time, Gail and I were making dinner at home, sitting in the kitchen, and the letter came in from the attorneys that was solicited by the city. They had been in communication with the Secretary of State's office, the elections department were involved in that conversation, those meetings. They had a couple of our attorneys and several of them involved, and reviewed everything and said, this is the way the election must go at this point. It has to be a write-in, and it has to be on March 3rd. So once I had that ruling, if you will, that was the final piece of the puzzle. Then I said, all right, let's get out there. And we're good at marketing, and we created a digital poster. Some folks had said, gee, how'd you have those posters printed up already? We didn't. We had called Awesome Graphics, and about a week later we had posters. But at that moment, you can make a digital poster. So I said, let's launch it that way. Let's get it out on social and start there. And of course, it was kind of fun because we're sitting there and say, okay, once I hit share, there's no turning back. You can't put this genie back in the bottle, nor would we. And so it was kind of one of those kind of really momentous occasions when you go, okay, tap, and you hit share, and then we started to work.
And you got, in essence, a pretty good head start on the other candidates. There were a couple others whose names are well known, Dave Allaire and Henry Heck. And then there were a couple, maybe even 3 or 4 others that just sort of came on, if you will. And I really didn't know how serious any of them were. I did see some lawn signs for a couple of the others, but I think that head start gave you that momentum because, again, Dave Allaire, former mayor, current Board of Aldermen president,
right,
and then Henry Heck, who was the town clerk for many, many years in the city, and then ran for mayor. Neither of them sort of, at least from the beginning, gave it 100%. I didn't think. It was sort of like, well, if people really feel that they want to do it, then that's great. But I can't remember the exact words. And then, of course, the other one was Chris Loris. I forgot that he also, in some fashion, sort of got into the race.
Right.
But I think that head start really put you in good shape.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that, only from the standpoint that one thing people know about me, I'm decisive. And as a leader, you have to be decisive. And that's really a critical trait, to be able to make decisions and stand by those decisions. But also people know that I do my homework and I think things through. I vet things That's why I don't like things that come into the board by surprise on Monday night, because we haven't had a chance to think about it for even a minute. We haven't had a chance to vet things. We haven't made the phone calls to department heads or others who we might want to get their advice. I'm thorough like that. And so when it came to being decisive on this, it was an immediate decision. It was like, if we're going to do this, we are going to do this. And I want to prove to folks that we're serious about it and that it isn't something we're kind of tossing back and forth, because I think that says a lot for me about whether or not I'm all in. And I was all in. And, once we assembled the team, it was go time. And, I kind of adopted what I say for my favorite team, the New England Patriots, let's go. And we were like, let's go. And now we're about Rutland, let's go. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, the feedback I've gotten during and since the election, it's unprecedented for me. I've been an elected official in this community for many years and served in many posts, whether it's the Board of Civil Authority as the Justice of the Peace or having served as an alderman now 6 years, 5 previously and 1 the past year. And I've never seen the level of excitement and enthusiasm and support as I have in the past week.
Was it mostly from social media, or do people actually, I know it happens to me on occasion, I'll be at the grocery store or the hardware store and someone will walk up and say, hey, Brian, hey, blah, 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 blah. And so
right.
We start a conversation.
Yeah, so a great question, because because that is the question. Is it just one medium you're getting that feedback from? It isn't. It's people literally rolling down their windows in their cars and their trucks, or pulling over on the side of the street. Huh. It's overwhelming, actually. It's exciting because and tons on social media, tons. But getting phone calls, texts, emails, and then literally in person, people pulling over, rolling down their windows. It's all of the above. It's powerful right now. This is a moment for Rutland. We don't want to let it slip away. This is going to be a great year.
We're talking with newly elected Tom Donahue, the mayor of the city of Rutland. I can't remember what number you are. How many mayors have we had? I did look it up when we were here last time.
I'll have to look that up myself. Yeah, but, I haven't had time to figure that out yet.
It's it's fun to have you in, and we're going to start talking a little bit here about some of the plans that you might have made. I'm still a little unclear in terms of the local procedures. So there were 5 aldermen who were elected as well on town meeting day, and 4 of them, I think, are incumbents, and 1 is new.
Correct.
So I'm wondering, once you get reelected, committee work, do you stay on those committees? How does that work, or is it up to you or whoever decides who's going to be on what committee to sort of get everybody together again and reassign committees?
Right. So the 2 things that are going to happen is I'm actually going to appoint my own replacement. So that will be a first. Yeah. And I think that's kind of neat because, you get to help assemble that team of who you think is the best person to represent the city. I'm not looking for any political factions or anything like that. This is a nonpartisan post. We need to keep it that way. And we really all need to be pulling together as a board of aldermen and the mayor's administration right now, pull together all on one, Team Rutland. We need to get on board the Rutland train, as I say. The train's leaving the station, all aboard, because if you're not on, you're going to be left back at the station. This is a moment we have, and this is going to take all of us. I'm happy to lead it as the mayor, but it's going to take all of us. And right now, everyone's all in. We don't want to blow this moment. This is too important to us. So, and when I say that, I'm talking about the eyes of the state are on us, and Washington. Everyone's looking at Rutland right now, and that's good. That's good. That's exactly what we want, and it's exciting for a change. They're not looking at us for something negative at the moment. They're looking at us with some level of enthusiasm and optimism. And boy, what a change right there already. Just sort of like this reset. It's almost overwhelming. If I wasn't good at this, I would be overwhelmed by it, I think, but I'm ready for it. Now, having said that, we will reelect a board chair. The Board of Aldermen will. I will then not be in that decision once I'm sworn in on the 15th. So, and the board meeting will be the 16th, and that will be a newly constituted board but there'll be one short because by the rules, my appointment would come up that night, and then it has to be automatically tabled for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so there'll be one short for 2 weeks. The rest of the board will elect a chair, president of the Board of Aldermen. I know that's likely to be Dave Allaire, and I actually spoke with David about it yesterday and let him know that he has my full support for that as well. So and I've had some conversations with some of the aldermen that's where I'm coming from, is that I want to work with David. I would like to see him back in the chair. Okay. And then to answer the final part of your question, is he will assign those committees. And he'll do one of two things. He'll either do some reassigning if he so chooses, if he thinks that there's some skill sets there that maybe suit somebody. But look at like Bill Gillum. I mean, he's the chair of the Department of Public Works Committee for the Board of Aldermen. Perfect assignment. Bill loves that. He's good at it. So you would assume Dave would reassign Bill as one great example. But you also will have at least two fairly significant posts that would be sort of open, if you will. Mine, I was chair of the Community and Economic Development Committee for the board, so I shepherded through the final piece on the tax increment financing district and the bond. I've shepherded through recently the housing project at the corner of Franklin and Cherry. It'll be about a potentially $2 million investment in housing there. I shepherded through the final piece of the puzzle with the hotel package. Things like that go through that committee. So if you're into economic development like I am, and that's a really important role. So I was asking for that when I was originally elected alderman because I knew that is my wheelhouse. And I enjoyed leading that committee for the last year. That position, that opportunity to chair that will be open. And David will have to, if it's David, and I hope it is, that would be the assignment of the president. And additionally, I was vice chair of the Public Safety Committee, which is the other important thing to me is this whole thing. We can talk about it on public safety, but being vice chair of the Public Safety Committee for the Board of Aldermen, excuse me, as I is important. And so that's going to be open. I also served and will continue to serve in a different capacity on the Traffic Safety Committee for the City of Rutland. So I got appointed as the representative to the Traffic Safety Committee, which I wanted that post. And we meet over at the police department once a month. And we get into some nitty-gritty things, but it's really, really important, the things that we talk about on that committee. The mayor serves on that committee. So I actually will be able to continue my work there, which I'm excited about.
Yep.
And then lastly, I was representative to the Rutland City School Board. And so that post would be, I'm the board's representative to that. So that post would be open as well.
And then the other new seat, Mr. Franzoni will be taking office.
Right,
and,
right.
I'm not sure what his particular strengths are, but that'll be up to whoever the president of the board is to have a chat and decide where he goes to. Exactly.
Yeah, he'll have to be assigned to some committees as well. And I think that, congratulations to him for winning. Yeah. He ran a good campaign. I have to tell you this one funny thing that we were at the polls. And by the way, I have finally thought out. That was
cold.
We were at every poll for 12 hours, 12 hours, and it was intense. And I remember it when I first ran. It isn't any different than the first march that I ran many moons ago for alderman. And I remembered it. It was like a flashback of here we are again. And it's no different. It's just as cold. But people appreciate the fact that you're willing to stand out in the cold because you want the office bad enough. You got to prove that. We did some really cold sine waves. And it was important that people see that you're asking for their vote. You want it bad enough to stand out in the freezing cold in Vermont in this time of year, February, and so be it. That's what you got to do, and that's what you should do. Having said that, one of the neat things I got a kick out of, he had used a poster that was the bright orange.
Mr. Franzoni.
Yes. And when they got to their poll people, if you will, because he had people around the polls besides himself, and he was there. I stood with him for a while. They had matching orange hats.
Oh.
And I was jokingly saying, "Oh, okay, that's over the top," but actually, I also said, "Never thought of that one."
Interesting.
Yeah, that was great.
Well, I'm glad that meeting is the 16th. As we record this on the 5th of March, it will air this coming weekend, the 8th, and I'm tempted to run it for a couple of weeks in a row to allow people to, I guess, kind of get to know you better if they don't already.
Yeah, great.
So it may be on the 15th as well, and then that next day, the 16th, would be the board meeting, and lots will happen then.
Yeah.
I won't put you on the spot to see whether you have any particular favorites that you might be leaning toward to take your spot on the board. We'll let that go for now, and we'll see how things develop.
And I do.
Okay.
And I'm working, talking to some board members right now to get everybody on board with my selection.
Okay.
But absolutely.
We're talking to newly elected mayor of the city of Rutland, Tom Donahue, and we are going to take our first break here on Catamount Community Connection, and we'll be back with Tom in just a minute. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs show here on all 5 of our Catamount radio stations, and also PEG TV. And I hear a lot of people tell me that they've gone to PEG TV and Googled Catamount Community Connection, and then you can see which guest was on for what week, and then it comes on YouTube, and you can watch it at your leisure. The shows that run on the radio are at a particular time, and you can't go back unless you're listening at the exact time. So anyway, I thank them, and I thank the Rutland County Agricultural Society again for sponsoring the program. I don't have a list of the acts that'll be coming to the fair this summer, but as soon as we do, I'll let you know. But it is the 180th Vermont State Fair at Rutland coming in August, and it will coincide with the 250th birthday of the United States of America. We are very happy to be talking today to the newly elected mayor of the city of Rutland, Tom Donahue, and we've talked a lot about how, the election cycles go. Tom, in most cases, I think for both the alderman and the mayor's race, just recently concluded, are in the winter time. So it's a little bit different than running for the General Assembly. We have our primaries in August and then the general election in November. Sometimes in November it can get a little bit chilly, but it's certainly not the same temperature that people face March town meeting day. And, I've often wondered, you mentioned something earlier, Tom, that people enjoy or at least admire the folks who are willing to stand outside in front of a polling station and greet people as they walk by. And I've often done sine waves where it's pouring rain, and I wonder whether people either take one of two positions. Either, boy, those people must be out of their minds. There's no way I'd vote for them if they're willing to stand out in the rain. Or, as you said, boy, that takes some fortitude to be able to do that. I think I'll vote for that person. I don't know which, and it probably is different. Yeah.
It's definitely the latter.
Okay.
It's definitely, people appreciate the effort, and and as it should be. You should earn it, and that's one of the things, showing your sincere interest and asking for people's vote, not taking it for granted.
So Tom will officially appoint his replacement to the Rutland City Board of Aldermen. That person will be brought up on the 16th of March, which, if you're listening to this on 1 week, it's a week away. If you're listening on the 15th, it's tomorrow. And that person will go on the agenda for, did you say 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And then, assuming they get approved, they will take a position there. But you also mentioned the school board, and you have, I think, the ability to assign new people on that too, right?
Yeah, so there wasn't enough people to fill the slots on the ballot. And what happens is the write-ins could count towards that, but there's a minimum number of write-ins that you have to get in order to be selected. And if you don't achieve the minimum number, then you are appointed then by the mayor. Okay. And so that's what happened. And I just have to look to see if that ended up being 2 or 3. But regardless, I'm going to be communicating with the board chair, Kathy Solsa, at the school board, as well as the superintendent of schools, see what their thoughts on it are. They may have some people in mind. Also, I would just encourage anybody who might be interested in serving on the school board to reach out to them as well. And I've had at least one person reach out to me. And I think it's great. I wouldn't make those unilaterally. I'd want to make sure that the school, board had some input on that, or at least their chair and maybe the superintendent as well, because they're the ones going to be working directly with them, not me. I just happen to be, by charter, the one responsible for making the appointments, and that they would approve them, unlike with the Board of Aldermen. They'll approve the new aldermen, the school board will approve the new candidates for the school board. So it's one of those things that just cropped up because of the way things went, a little bit of lack of interest in running for it, and not enough write-ins to qualify somebody.
I have to think the majority of the school boards in Rutland County breathed a sigh of relief when the results of town meeting vote came out. I live in Rutland Town, and the town's school budget and municipal budget were both passed, and I know the city was also 2-0, if you will, in those two contests. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think, again, I went to the Rutland Town meeting. That sounds weird, but town meeting in Rutland Town, and I did speak. I was trying to be very incognito and just sort of sit in the back. I didn't have any of my Senate garb on, but
with your head of hair, that's impossible. I just want to say.
Well, the question came up pretty quickly about the education reform, and everybody turned around and looked at me. So I kind of was forced into at least offering some remarks on it. I still don't have any idea what we're going to wind up doing, but I did mention, and I did sincerely believe this, I paid a lot more attention to the Rutland Town School Board budget than I did the city. And I think the Rutland Town School Board did an excellent job in holding the line and being very, very fiscally responsible. It went up incrementally, and most of the increase were on things that they have no control over, like the healthcare costs that continue to rise by double digits. So I just wanted to mention that both the city and the town school budgets and municipal budgets did pass. So it isn't like somebody's going to join the school board in Rutland City in the middle of this, turmoil.
Well, that's exactly the point, because I felt the same way.
Yeah.
So with this post that I'll be filling out the second year of the previous mayor's term, a year's not a long time, and I have a lot I want to get done. If I were to then, let's say the municipal budget hadn't passed, I don't want to spend the first 2 months of my tenure getting a budget, because I'm going to need all 12. And so I was very excited for the same exact reason. I want to hit the ground running.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always better to come in a sort of a peaceful climate and be able to roll your sleeves up and get to work.
That's
and with that, let's talk about, I know the two things that are, and you probably got a longer list than two, but I know from talking to you a couple of weeks ago before the election and also reading the accounts in the Rutland Herald that Gordon did after the election, economic development, the continuation of that, and also public safety are the two items that you seem most interested in and probably have the most experience of, anybody I know. I mean, seriously, from the work that you did for over 20 years on the, we used to call it the Chamber of Commerce, and then, as you mentioned, the committee work on the Board of Aldermen. And again, it's a continuation. A lot of good things have happened in the last 5 years here in the city.
Right.
We have a TIF district. We have a hotel going up. We have across the street the Paramount doing some expansion. So let's talk a little bit about what else can we do in terms of economic expansion that you want to work on.
Yeah, so those were the tenets of my campaign: leadership, public safety, and economic development. And I kept that fairly simple intentionally because there are subsets to that, obviously, and the list could go on and on. But I wanted to communicate a message that was the higher calling of those three. And I just want to take a moment, if I could, to mention number one with the leadership, which is something I enjoy. I've always enjoyed that. And being out front, not everybody wants to be out front. I get that. I just do. And so I like to lead by example. I like to lead from the front, as they say. I'm a very hands-on leader, not a micromanager, but a hands-on leader. So, when I've got staff out doing something, and we're doing a food drive, let's say, and I don't call in from home and having a cup of coffee to see how things are going. I'm down there with them. Mm-hmm. And that's the sign of a true leader, in addition to assembling a team that can do their jobs and do them well. And you need to inspire them, motivate them, set them up for success too, by the way. and give them what they need to succeed. And one of the great litmus tests of doing that is when I'll go away for a week to Maine, and I come back, everything worked exactly like it did from the moment I left. It's like nothing changed. My phone wasn't ringing. I was not getting texts, as it should be. If you're not a good leader, you're on the phone every half hour. That's not the sign of a good leader. My litmus test is, can I come back on Monday morning and look around? It's like I never left. Gee, they didn't need me. That's the way you want to set up an organization. The city can run the same exact way and will run the same exact way. We've got a good team of people over there, and they're going to be excited to have their leader back at the helm. Having said that, one other important thing, communication. That is going to be a centerpiece of my year. And this today is one of those examples. I'm not even installed yet, but here we are on your great program and enjoying every minute of it, by the way. And I really, really, really believe in communication. Now, there are some things that have to be done quietly when you're negotiating and things like that. That's just part of everybody understands that. That's not a problem for people. But the problem is when they don't know or quite understand what you're doing. And then people have to speculate. There shouldn't have to be speculation. There's nothing wrong with explaining what you're doing and why. People are smart here, and they can figure it out. Just give them a little, believe in them and trust them a little bit. They'll get it. But it's hard for them to come to conclusions when you're not providing that information, when you're not communicating well. So we will be ramping up. I like to think of myself maybe as being the new communicator in chief, and I plan to be. And this isn't about transparency. I'm not trying to use a warm and fuzzy, all about transparency. A lot of people wear that term out. This isn't about that. This is about communicating, just talking to people, letting them know what your priorities are, what your decisions are, why you made those decisions, and some of the details. Now, also along with that communication is going to be celebration. I keep using the NASCAR analogy when you win the race and you take about 3 victory laps before you get to victory lane. They really know how to celebrate a win. And conversely, we tend to put the car on the hauler and go to the next track. That's got to stop. It's time for Rutland to celebrate its wins and for people to feel good about them. Give them a minute, Mm-hmm. People really are happy to hear good news. It's not all about the bad news. People are disrespected sometimes because they think, we just, we're our own worst enemy. We can't get out of our own way. I think it's just the opposite here. This is a community that rallies, that gets excited. But you got to give them something to get excited about. And we're going to do that in the next year. It's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to celebrate the wins. And I learned that at the Chamber of Commerce a long time ago. Brian, as you know, I ran that for 21 years. And so we had our report card once a year. What was that? Our membership renewal. And I doubled the membership there. We left it at about 600 businesses, from the smallest to the largest. It was a phenomenal representation of area businesses. And it started out around 300 when I first got there. Long story short, when you got to the year when the dues would come up, people would say, well, I don't know what you really did for me in the last year. Well, if they're saying that, then you fell down on the job. It's your job to be communicating. It's not about being humble. It's about letting them know all the great things that you did as a Chamber of Commerce for them as a member, as a business throughout the year, so that when their renewal came in, the report card was an A. They said, yep, no problem, write the check and re-up their membership for another year. That's about communicating, and it's about celebrating. It's not about being humble. So we're not going to be too humble for the next year. Rutland is going to be shouted from the mountaintops. All eyes are on us right now, and this is our moment to shine, so we're going to shine. And I'm going to do that in a number of ways. I am hopefully to get on the radio as much as possible. I am going to be launching. I talked to the executive director of the public access television station here, more informally known as PEG TV, which actually stands for Public Education and Government, PEG, mm-hmm. television, and Rutland. We are going to launch some sort of a regular PEG TV program. But Tom Leopold and I are kind of bouncing around the names because he's a whiz at that. And I said, well, maybe you come up with something. But anyway, more importantly than the name will be the communication. We'll have the community access television And we'll be doing it through as many mediums as we can, whether that's print, public access, or right here on the radio. It's very, very important. And then every other way, of course, social media and the like. But communicate. It's going to be fun actually talking about what we're doing. And right now, Rutland's getting on the Rutland train. They're getting on Team Rutland. So why not keep them on the train? Why not keep them on Team Rutland? Bring people in to what we're doing and get them as equally as excited about it as we are. So there's that. And then that brings me to the next two things, and that is the public safety piece, which is very important and critical element of even the third tenet of my campaign, the economic development.
Yep.
A lot of subcategories under those. But the bottom line for public safety is, and this isn't to disparage Rutland, we do not have a reputation for public safety right now. Now, you come from out of another place and you say, well, Rutland's really pretty good compared to where I came from. That's fine. I get that. At the same token, it's not fine when we're seeing over 17,000 calls for service at a Rutland City Police Department in a year. Last year, over 17,000. That's not fine. And it's not fine for the officers either, by the way. We had a lack of policing for a while where we got down to about 25 officers at one point. That's really not good at all. When we were at my first time around, we were at about 41. 41. So right now we've moved ourselves up, and we're going to be at about 38, including the traffic officer that was hired through a grant. So we're moving in the right direction. But what has that allowed us to do? It allowed us to do more what they call proactive and what I like to call proactive policing. They also call it directed patrols. Every 2 weeks, they have a RutStat meeting. Yep. Rutland Statistics. It's phenomenal data that they collect. And they look at 2-week snapshots, not a month, not a year. They do compare them month to month, year to year, so forth. That's okay. That's good. But they're actually looking at drilling down to every 2 weeks. And they're looking at what are the hot spots? What are the repeat offenders? What are the times of day and days of the week and hours of the day? One of the things I've related over and over, because I think it's important for people to know, when I was younger, everything happened under the cover of darkness. And by the way, the toilet papering or something that we'd get into long ago was nothing. We thought, oh, aren't we wise guys? Yeah, not anymore. We're more like Leave It to Beaver, I think, back then.
Yeah. I did want to mention we had Matt Prouty on last show.
Great.
And he did talk a lot about those RutStats and the fact that he's coming in. He's our new police chief in the city.
Right.
And rather than have officers just, and these are his words, drive around aimlessly with absolutely, nothing planned.
Right.
He is really going the other way so that, those hot spots get a look at it. And I call it community policing, but maybe you're calling it proactive policing. I think we're talking basically about the same thing. There's a plan in place to reduce the number of calls that we have to make. Exactly. To our police department, and it's pretty. I'm sure he's going to do an absolutely fantastic job. I hope he's there for, the rest of his career, because I think he's an excellent choice. And
agreed.
The other thing I want to mention,
I just want to say though, with those in the month of January and February, the numbers have already declined with the proactive approach.
Okay, so the other night on town meeting. And this is a compliment to you and no disparagement meant anywhere else. It took me a while to figure out I'm not on the cable anymore. So I didn't have access to PEG TV on my television, but I do on my computer.
Yeah.
So I went on and I pushed the button for coverage of the election. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I wasn't going to see you. I was going to see somebody else.
Right, Tom Fagan.
You couldn't have the same guy that was running doing the reporting. And so I did tune it in. And at first it said it was going to be at 7. Then it was 7:15. And then finally at 7:30, Tom Fagan did come on. And I felt a little bit bad for him in a way because he didn't have that same sort of experience with it. He did a great job. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. That's why I'm not trying to say anything badly about Tom. But I missed you. That's all I'm going to say, because I know what it's like to try to organize that. Years ago, the radio station used to do election coverage with Ted Pendleton and all those guys.
And I used to come on with you.
Yes, you did. And it takes a certain amount of team effort in order to get everything done.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
I appreciate you saying that, because I actually thank Tom for stepping up, because somebody had to step
That's
up
right.
to do that, and he was brave enough to do it, because live television is very difficult.
Tough.
Frankly, it's not the same as being recorded, and he did a nice job. I really enjoyed talking to him, and that is a tremendous public service.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Especially since they stream it, like you said, and people were watching, by the way, from all around the country. We learned.
Yeah.
But also for them, it's a big team of people behind the scenes. Thank you for recognizing that. And
Tom Leopold is absolutely the best choice to lead that group as well.
Phenomenal.
I'm going to do whatever I can to get him some additional funding at the legislative level.
Thank you for
because
saying that.
they deserve it. And what's happened over the years, fewer and fewer people are using cable TV anymore. And there's, I don't know what it was, a $4 or $5 fee every month when you got your bill that went directly to the local access channels.
That's right.
And so as that drops off, they have to find revenue somewhere else. And the state has managed to step in and fill the gap, but it continues to, go the wrong way, if you know what I mean.
Yes, exactly. We need to keep that full strength, because so many people are getting their information that way. And especially now that they're loading it to YouTube and they're streaming it and so forth. So I give Tom Leopold all the credit for taking PEG TV to a new level of communication and meeting people where they're at. Everybody's getting their information in different ways, and they have their favorite ways. And it might be the good old-fashioned newspaper, and it might be just on a handheld device, but you've got to be accessing. And with my campaigns, communication strategy, post-campaign, but now once we start in the mayor's office, that's what I want to do, is reach people where they're at. Let them get their news from us and their communication from us from their favorite way, not just figure, and miss out on a demographic of folks that don't utilize that as well. So, thank you for mentioning that. I was thankful to Tom Fagan for actually taking the role. I started that with Mike Valentine.
Oh, my goodness,
And then went on with John Valeni for over a decade, Judge Valeni. And then had Nancy Gordon, Lisa Ryan. And then we got into COVID, and the studio had really strict protocols, and good for them. So I started the solo piece, and then after we came out of it, we just kind of kept it solo, because I changed the format a bit to say, okay, I'll do the reporting, but let's get guests to come on and do the commentary. And so that really ended up being a great new direction for the program, because it was getting people like yourself to come on and talk about what you're doing, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, right from the, the boots on the ground level, so to speak. And that was a great addition. It really made the program more robust and interesting, frankly.
Yep.
And so that's why it remained solo like that. So he's even braver for doing it solo, I just want to say.
We're talking to newly elected Rutland City Mayor Tom Donahue. We're going to take our second break here on Catamount Community Connection, and we'll be back with Tom in just a minute. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs show here, brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society. Hey, folks, fair number 180 is coming up in August, and I want to thank the Agricultural Society for their support of this show. And we're now somewhere in the hundreds of shows that we've done, and they've been with us every single time. We're talking today with new Mayor Tom Donahue, newly elected Rutland City Mayor. And we've talked a lot about the election, how it went. We've talked about his tenet of communication being very important. We talked about public safety, the fact that we're nearing 40 officers again, and that we do want Rutland to be viewed statewide and nationally as a safe place for people to come and live and do business. And now we want to talk a little bit about your other piece, which is the economic development. You're coming in at a time where next summer, spring and summer, there will be streets, Center Street and Whale Street, under construction, the new hotel going in. I can remember, I've been here some 60 years now, and when there were very few vacant buildings in the downtown area, we had, businesses that had legacy kinds of terms. I mean, they've been there for years and years and years. And then it went through kind of a period where that wasn't true. Everything's cyclical anyway. It comes and goes. And I think we're as you have said more than once, we're at a moment in time where, we want to look to fill every single retail space that we can down there, and office space too, right?
Totally agree. And this is a huge opportunity, and one of the reasons I decided to run. Again, there was things I was looking at, what's happening or potentially happening in the next year, and am I best suited to lead that from the mayor's office? And I determined that I was, or I wouldn't have ran after all these years of deciding not to. This just would have been another one of those years, but I knew that this is the time for me to do what the city needs most at this, as you said, moment in time. It's a great moment in time. There's a real great amount of optimism for the community right now, for the city. But I'm optimistic too, because I know my skill set and I know what we can get to happen in a very short period of time. We're going to get some wins for Rutland in year one. So we talked about public safety, and I just wanted to say how that ties directly to the economic development. We need to and will get a reputation for public safety in this community. And once you have that reputation for public safety, other things will follow. When people want to move into the city again, raise their families here, when people want to invest and do business here and be part of the workforce in a safe city and shop, because you just talked about filling space. People, we need shoppers. And with a reputation for public safety, all of that will follow. And we will enjoy all of that because of it. So that's why the two go hand in hand. They're not two separate issues. They are absolutely intertwined and critical to each other. Having said that, this summer, economic development, we have an opportunity, a rare opportunity, created thanks to you folks in the House and the Senate directly, to change the way we implement or require the Land Use Act 250. And right now, as you know, I'm telling your listeners because you're in the middle of it in Montpelier, Act 181 is something we currently enjoy. And what that is, under Act 250, Act 181, as you know, allows you to do some things with almost like a waiver from Act 250 for a period of time. Now, that period of time expires actually January 1st, 2027. I know the legislature is continuing to thinking about continuing that till 2030. Not yet decided, but in the meantime, we have to go with the expiration date of next January, and that's a short window. Now, what does that do for Rutland? It allows for a certain segment of our community, in a wide segment, by the way, because we're a small, geographically 8 square miles, exemption from Act 250 for housing, just housing, under what we're going to be applying for. And this went through my committee as well, and the Board of Aldermen, my Community and Economic Development Committee. We gave the green light for our planning department with our planning director, Ed Bove, and he works very closely with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. They're a great team, very, very good at their jobs. I'm looking forward to working with them as a team to achieve the Tier 1A exemption opportunity that Rutland has within this Act 181 that would not expire. It's permanent in effect because we have the ingredients necessary to be allowed that status. And it's interesting to look at the criteria. It's been the things I've been talking about for years at the Chamber of Commerce. Water and sewer, having capacity in the plant. Right now we're using about 4 million gallons per day. We are permitted for 8 million gallons a day. I think it has a capacity of some 20 plus million gallons per day. We have a great sewage treatment plant. And in fact, as we separate stormwater and sewer, the capacity goes up because we're not treating stormwater anymore. We're just treating sewer, which is what we should be doing anyway. And that Meadow Street project will add capacity to the plant. So we have capacity. Not every town does in the state. And in addition, we have a planning department that's required. We have, zoning and subdivisions and a master plan. These are things that will be approved soon. There's some revisions that will be approved soon that will then pave the way for our application to the Land Use Review Board to get that status. We need to achieve that. That'll be one of the primary functions of my office for a few months. That has to be achieved. Once we have that, we have exemption from Act 250, not just for housing anymore, but additionally for commercial development and industrial development. It'll be a huge calling card for Rutland And we need to take full advantage of that. That will be not having the unpredictability of going through the Act 250 process. With unpredictability and a cumbersome process, it means time. And time means money. People are investing not only thousands and hundreds of thousands, but sometimes $1 million or more in getting an Act 250 permit. I have a particular business in mind right now when I say that in the Rutland area.
So do I.
And so, that stymies development or it eliminates the possibility of that development happening in your community. Ours will be just the opposite. Locate here. We have local control over those decisions. We'll be nimble. It'll be a faster, more timely, more predictable, less expensive process, and we'll get shovels in the ground. And that's what I'm anxious to do for us this coming year.
Yeah, the business that I'm thinking about is a car business that tried to move a little bit further south down Route 7. And if I'm understanding correctly, I may have the number off a little bit, it was nearly $1 million before that permit was issued. It was $800,000 the last I knew, but I know they did finally get it, and they will be able to move down the road a little bit. And that should not happen in my view. It just that is not what we should be doing, and hopefully they will enjoy great success with their move. So, and the other thing you mentioned, the Meadow Street, for those that don't know, that will be able to help, I guess, in terms of separating the stormwater from the sewer, because there'll be a big, huge storage tank underneath what I think are soccer fields now, right? Or that recreation area down there.
Yeah, it'll be right back there. And Meadow Street Park is kind of what we know it as, Connor Park. And Bill Gillen, by the way, kind of led that from the Department of Public Works Committee but we have a great team at the Public Works and a great team in the office doing that part of it. And so, we have assets already in City Hall, and we've got to really work with those teams, because those kind of things, while they seem mundane, actually end up being a critical part of the puzzle.
Well, you could say Mr. Protovansky and his crew.
Right.
Again, this will air on the 8th and then maybe on the 15th again. So now almost a month ago, at the intersection of Route 4 and Route 7, we had I don't know if it was a water main break, something happened, and all of a sudden we're down to one lane.
Yep.
And I'm going home, and it's probably about 12 degrees outside, and here are these poor DPW guys out there trying their best to fix this thing as quickly as they can. Further up the street on Woodstock Avenue, only a couple weeks before that, there was another one. So
exactly.
I just have the utmost respect for those guys. And gals, I'm sure there's gals involved, being out there on those kind of weather conditions.
That's right. And you know what happened on that one? So I was driving through in the afternoon, and I called it a water park. Yeah. And that's what happens when those burst, and you have to respond immediately. And they did. They put together a team of 10. They replaced an 8-foot section of 12-inch pipe that was under the ground that they had, of course, go discover it and then replace it and get that water park under control. I give them also credit for two things. One, I drove through the very next day. You'd never know it even
exactly
happened. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how you want it. Fix it, and then, the disruption's over and everyone goes back to their normal day. However, it wasn't normal for them. They worked on it for 14 hours. It was right in the middle of a weekend. And so what I always say is, I appreciate them for coming out and doing that work and solving it, really just solving it. But also I appreciate their families, because their weekend just went down the tubes and just cut right into the middle of it, and out they went, and until they were done. So amazing crews that we've got. This is one of the things that I'm talking a lot about, and I said it at Brock Community Action, and I believe it in my heart and soul. Our number one asset is our employees, our people. Absolutely. You can have the nicest trucks and equipment, but nothing works without the people. That's the number one asset. That's what we have to work on at City Hall is letting people be appreciated again, inspiring them and supporting them, because they are what makes Rutland tick first and foremost. One last thing I want to say before we go off the air. I think this is very important.
You got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Perfect. I want to let everybody know I do support the Walmart supercenter. I've said that right along. I'm not wavering from that position. We need more shopping opportunities in Rutland, and we want to draw more people to this region. That will do that. They're going to do that. Let's not get in their way. I'm excited about it, actually, for Rutland Town. In the meantime, it opens up another opportunity in Rutland. We do have to be conscious of all business in Rutland, not just downtown. It's very important, and especially our small businesses. So my focus will be all business in Rutland, large or small. Having said that, I'm excited about the opportunity of filling that space in downtown. I would not support anything like a library going there or housing. It's got to be retail. 2 reasons. One, again, that draw. We need that draw, and we need more shopping opportunities in Rutland. We have some tremendous stores and shopkeepers in Rutland now, tremendous, but we need more. People are leaving Rutland to go get their shopping done because they can't get selection here and so forth, or they're ordering online. I have talked to the vice president of Brixmor. He is very excited about bringing new retail into downtown Rutland, and they're talking about filling that same space with either one brand new retailer or possibly dividing it and having 2 of the type that would fit in that space, types of retailers. You know, the Marshall's just opened in Bennington. It's a very nice store. That would fit in there with another store. So that's what we need, retail back there, retail in Rutland Town. And then we enjoy also the 1% option tax that comes from those sales, which helps to provide additional revenue for the city to do the things that we need to do, because Rutland is a large business, $27.4 million business, and we have to treat it that way. People expect the job to be done with their tax dollars. It's a big business, and we need to be able to create additional revenue. So when we expand economic development, we're expanding the tax base, we're spreading the burden out amongst a greater number than we are right now. Last year, the grand list went down. Our tax base, our valuation went down. That can't be allowed to stand. We have to increase that because the burden is greater when the grand list goes down. And we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to turn that around. We're going to spread that burden out so that people's taxes don't take it on the chin every July.
We've been talking to newly elected Rutland City Mayor Tom Donahue, and I want to thank him for spending an hour with us today. And we wish you certainly the best, Tom, in the next year. And we'll have you back on the show on a regular basis.
I love it. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. And we will see all of you next week here on Catamount Community Connection.